Okay, so we don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but it's really starting to look like the ATF's time is running out. There's new legislation, fresh leadership, and growing public pressure. The momentum to dismantle the agency has never been stronger. In this video, we'll talk about ATF's toughest battle yet, the key players driving this movement, and what it means for us law-abiding gun owners. Could 2025 be the year we finally see the end of the ATF? Or will the RINOs and anti-gun leftist politicians keep it alive? Stick around as we break down the major legislative efforts, Trump's mixed stance on gun rights, and what you can do to push this movement forward. If you've ever felt frustrated by government overreach or wondered what abolishing the ATF could look like, this is the video for you. By the end, you'll understand why 2025 could mark the beginning of the end for this tyrannical agency. Don't go anywhere. You won't want to miss this. The ATF has always been a thorn in the side of law-abiding gun owners like you and me. Time and time again, this agency oversteps its boundaries, pushing unconstitutional regulations and acting like they can rewrite laws at will. They've been targeting our rights for years, and honestly, I've had enough. Thankfully, courts are starting to catch on and shut them down. One of the biggest victories for freedom came in June 2024 with the Supreme Court's ruling in Garland v. Cargill. Finally, someone put the ATF in its place. The court ruled that the ATF had no authority to classify bump stocks as machine guns, which they did back in 2018. This wasn't about public safety. It was about punishing law-abiding gun owners. They used the 2017 Las Vegas tragedy as an excuse to push their agenda, but the Supreme Court saw through it. Congress writes the laws, not some unelected bureaucrats at the ATF. Justice Clarence Thomas hit the nail on the head in his opinion. He made it clear that a semi-automatic firearm with a bump stock doesn't magically become a machine gun because the ATF says so. It still requires one trigger pull for every shot, and the law's definition is crystal clear. This ruling was a massive win, not just for gun owners, but for anyone sick of government agencies making up rules as they go. And let's not forget what happened in August 2023, when the 5th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals tore down another one of the ATF's overreaching schemes. This time, it was their so-called final rule, which tried to classify unfinished frames and receivers as firearms. That rule was nothing more than an attempt to outlaw homemade guns and make criminals out of regular folks exercising their Second Amendment rights. Thankfully, the court stopped them in their tracks. The ATF's 2022 rule targeted what they call ghost guns, but it was really all about control, not crime prevention. These unserialized firearms are perfectly legal, and there's nothing wrong with building your own gun at home. But the ATF didn't care about the law. They just wanted more power. The 5th Circuit Court finally did what needed to be done. It slapped down the ATF for overstepping its bounds. The court ruled that the ATF has no authority to regulate items that don't meet the legal definition of a firearm. Think about that. The ATF was trying to rewrite the law without Congress lifting a finger. Thankfully, the court made it clear. If the ATF wants to change the rules, they need congressional approval. This is how the system is supposed to work. That ruling is just one piece of a larger movement to rein in the ATF's overreach. Courts are finally stepping up and forcing these bureaucrats to stick to the law as it's written, not as they wish it were. It's about time someone reminded the ATF that they don't get to make up rules to fit their anti-Second Amendment agenda. This decision is a massive win for the Constitution and a much-needed check on executive power run amok. Let's talk about the NFA for a moment, though, because that's another mess entirely. The National Firearms Act imposes ridiculous restrictions on things like suppressors and SBRs. Suppressors are treated like they're some kind of dangerous weapons of mass destruction. The ATF's enforcement of these outdated laws is a nightmare for gun owners who just want to protect their hearing at the range or while hunting. Want to buy a suppressor? Get ready for a bureaucratic circus. Thanks to the NFA, you're looking at a mountain of paperwork, an invasive background check, and a $200 tax stamp that hasn't been adjusted since the Great Depression. Oh, and the wait time? It can take 9 months or longer, all for a tool that's legal in most of the world, without all this nonsense. It's no wonder so many people give up before they even start. Thankfully, there's been some pushback in Congress with measures like the Hearing Protection Act, or HPA. This bill aims to drag suppressor regulations out of the Stone Age by removing them from the NFA altogether. If passed, suppressors would be treated like regular firearms under the Gun Control Act. The HPA has strong backing from firearm advocacy groups, and for good reason. It's a common-sense measure that would make life easier for millions of gun owners. Unfortunately, it's still sitting in legislative limbo because too many politicians would rather demonize suppressors than admit they're useful and safe. In July 2024, Senators John Cornyn and Mike Lee also introduced the SHUSH Act, short for Silencers Helping Us Save Hearing Act. This bill aims to completely deregulate suppressors, taking them out of the NFA and GCA. That's right. No more $200 tax stamps, no more federal transfer requirements, and no more ridiculous red tape. It would allow suppressors to be sold over the counter, just like any other lawful accessory. Even better, it includes provisions to refund the $200 tax to recent suppressor buyers. This act recognizes what we've been saying all along. Suppressors are about protecting hearing, not promoting crime. But of course, it's already facing political roadblocks from anti-gun politicians who refuse to acknowledge reality. And don't even get me started on the ATF's nonsense with stabilizing braces. Back in January 2023, they decided to quote-unquote clarify that pistols with these braces suddenly became short-barreled rifles SBRs under the NFA. This wasn't a clarification. It was a straight-up attack on millions of responsible gun owners. Stabilizing braces help disabled and older shooters enjoy the sport safely and responsibly. But the ATF decided to turn those people into criminals overnight. It's an absolute betrayal of trust. The ATF has spent decades cementing its reputation as the poster child for government overreach. Whether it's trying to ban pistol braces or overregulate suppressors, they're relentless in their quest to chip away at the Second Amendment. And let's not forget their infamous Fast and Furious operation, a disastrous sting that armed criminals and endangered lives. It's no wonder that so many of us don't trust them to do anything but overstep their authority and create chaos. That growing distrust has led to serious calls to dismantle the ATF entirely. Lawmakers like Representative Eric Burleson are leading the charge, introducing bills to abolish the agency once and for all. It's not just a pipe dream anymore. It's a movement gaining steam as more people wake up to the ATF's incompetence and hostility toward law-abiding Americans. The ATF is in trouble, plain and simple. With legal challenges piling up and public support dwindling, the writing's on the wall. The political landscape is undergoing a seismic shift. This is particularly true considering both the House and Senate are now Republican-controlled. Pro-2A Republicans are now poised to take decisive action against the ATF. This newfound majority is channeling the mandate from voters to curtail what many perceive as the ATF's overreach into Second Amendment rights. The stage is set for a bold legislative agenda aimed at reining in the agency's authority. At the forefront of this movement is Congressman Eric Burleson from Missouri. Stepping into a pivotal role, Burleson plans to reintroduce the Abolish the ATF Act, initially championed by former Congressman Matt Gaetz. This legislation seeks to dismantle the ATF, reflecting a growing sentiment among lawmakers and constituents that the agency has overstepped its bounds. Burleson's commitment to this cause underscores a broader effort to restore constitutional rights and limit federal overreach. The departure of Matt Gaetz from Congress left a significant void in the fight against the ATF's perceived excesses. Known for his unwavering stance on gun rights and his vocal criticism of the ATF, Gaetz was instrumental in bringing attention to the agency's controversial actions. His absence could have stalled momentum, but Congressman Burleson's decision to take up the mantle ensures that the push to abolish the ATF remains vigorous. Burleson's leadership is reinvigorating efforts to hold the agency accountable and protect individual liberties. Grassroots advocacy plays a crucial role in this legislative endeavor. Public pressure has been instrumental in bringing the ATF's actions under scrutiny, with advocacy groups and concerned citizens rallying to demand change. This groundswell of support is not only influencing lawmakers, but also shaping the national conversation around gun rights and federal authority. The collective voice of the people is a powerful force driving legislative efforts to rein in the ATF. As the Republican majority advances its agenda, the focus on key figures leading this charge becomes paramount. Among them is Brandon Herrera, a prominent firearms manufacturer and YouTube personality, who has garnered significant grassroots support for his potential nomination as director of the ATF. Known as the AK Guy, Herrera advocates for internal reforms and aims to recommend the agency's abolition, reflecting a bold vision for the future of gun rights in America. In parallel, Kash Patel, a former Department of Defense official, is being considered for the role of FBI director. Patel's potential appointment signals a broader initiative to reform federal agencies, emphasizing accountability and adherence to constitutional principles. His leadership could usher in significant changes within the FBI, aligning with efforts to protect individual liberties. As leaders like Brandon Herrera and Kash Patel prepare to take on pivotal roles in reshaping federal agencies, their efforts align with a larger legislative push to challenge the ATF's overreach head-on. This movement, fueled by bold bills like the Abolish the ATF Act, is gaining traction among lawmakers and Second Amendment advocates alike, setting the stage for significant reforms in gun regulation. The Abolish the ATF Act is a straightforward yet profound legislation, born of the sentiment among lawmakers and citizens that the ATF has gone too far. By proposing the complete dissolution of the agency, the bill aims to eliminate what many perceive as systemic overreach infringing upon individual liberties. Complementing this initiative are efforts to repeal the NFA. Its provisions are outdated and unnecessarily burdensome, but the path to abolishing the ATF and repealing the NFA is not without challenges. A significant concern is the bureaucratic backlog that could ensue if the NFA remains in effect without an agency to enforce its provisions. The ATF currently manages the registration and regulation of NFA items. Eliminating the agency without addressing the NFA could create legal ambiguities and administrative chaos. For this reason, a coordinated approach is crucial to ensure a seamless transition and uphold the rule of law. But that's all we have for now. The fight to dismantle the ATF and reclaim our 2A freedoms has never been stronger. From historic court rulings exposing the agency's unconstitutional overreach to bold legislative efforts like the Abolish the ATF Act and the push to repeal the NFA, momentum is on our side. With leaders like Congressman Eric Burleson and grassroots icons like Brandon Herrera stepping up, the stage is set for transformative change. So, what's your take on Brandon Herrera potentially becoming the new ATF director? In my opinion, the ultimate win would be abolishing the ATF altogether. But if Congress can't make that happen, even with Trump in office, I'd rather see someone pro-2A running the show, and Brandon Herrera might be the perfect fit. But what do you think? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and while you're at it, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to stay in the loop. Don't forget to hit the bell icon so you never miss an update on this fight for our freedoms.